Good afternoon everyone and welcome to this PGA introductory webinar. My name is Michael Abbott and I am the Member Education Executive here at the PGA, and it is my pleasure today to introduce our speaker for this session, Shona Garner. Shona, you there?
I sure am, Michael, yes.
Excellent. Just to give you all a little bit of background information about Shona, her background is in education, psychology and management, and it is through this that she has developed a deep understanding and knowledge and experience as to how to bring out the best of people in the workplace. Shona started her own business over 10 years ago, and since then she has developed her own accredited leadership program and run thousands of workshops with managers across a wide range of businesses and organizations, looking at what leaders and managers can actually do to immediately impact on the performance of their people. Shona is here today to talk about her seminar, Leading Your People, the Magic Ingredient to Your Club's Success, which is part of our member education program here at the PGA, and hopefully she can give us a better idea of what will be covered on the day. So Shona, it's time to pass over to you.
Okay, Michael, thank you very much indeed, and welcome to anyone who's listening. Okay, well, perhaps as Michael said, I've spent probably the last 40 years being absolutely fascinated in what it is that actually makes for success in terms of people performance, and more latterly over the last sort of probably 25 years, rather than being in education with schools, more about how you get the best out of people within the workplace, both as a manager myself and then over the last 11 years running workshops, as Michael said, within a variety of different types of organizations. And there's no mistake really about why I've actually given this particular session that title, Leading Your People, the Magic Ingredient to Your Club's Success. Because is it? Is it actually really that important? I think one of the things that I've discovered particularly over the last 11 years while I've been doing this work, is that often businesses and organizations, regardless of size, will sometimes look at what they call the people skills or the soft skills stuff as what I call fluffy bunny stuff. But I'd like to maybe start with, well, why should it matter? Why should you be thinking about how you can hone your leadership skills? Because will it actually really make a difference to the bottom line? So I'd like to start by maybe asking you some questions that I call the health check for an organization. So just take a look at the following questions. Do any of the following exist in your club right now? Are there cliques and gossip? Are people perhaps not working together as well as you hope they might? Are there any difficult personalities draining time or energy and damaging team dynamics? Do you have any poor motivation or poor morale amongst anyone within your team? In terms of changes, and I find this is a really common one, particularly even more so now that there's such a competitive marketplace out there, now that things change so fast, now that within minutes you can try something new in terms of an offering to your customers, and it'll be out on Twitter or Facebook, and your competitors will be able to copy it within seconds rather than months it used to be. But change is an inevitable part of having to keep up to try and keep customers. But the problem, of course, with change is very often that people resist it. And how do you manage that? And are you facing that kind of resistance right now, knowing that maybe things need to change within the club, but there are people who don't like the idea, why should we change, we've done it that way forever, etc. Are there people who you feel you're carrying? Is there a lack of creativity or initiative amongst any of your staff? Is there a culture with a tendency to blame and dictate to others? What about poor attitudes from some staff? And of course, often it's a bit like the bad apple syndrome, isn't it? That bad attitudes often spread to others. I once remember one of my first managers when I joined the pharmaceutical industry, giving me a phrase I never forgot. He said, if attitudes are infectious, is yours worth catching? And that can apply whether it's a positive attitude or whether it's a negative attitude. I guess we're all too familiar with the negative attitudes that spread sometimes. And then what about unenthusiastic old-timers who seem to be there for the duration? Now the bottom line is, as you look at that list, if any one of those you can say yes to, then it's likely that it's causing you hassle, that it's eating up your time. The problem is, of course, those poor attitudes spread and they just make your job even harder. And it always means that trying to implement any changes is a battle. The problem with that sometimes is that the good staff leave. And there's a variety of different research and studies that you could look at to see what the cost of replacing a member of staff is. But generally speaking, a good yardstick is to say that whatever the wages would be that you would pay that person that you need to replace, it's going to cost you at least double that in order to replace them and train them. And the other thing, of course, is that there would be no good ideas emerging which will help increase your profitability. For me, the most important fallout, if you said yes to any of those things on that health check, is these two things. That it's affecting your customers' experience of your club, and it's a downward spiral. The truth is that your people can make or break your club's success. And there's another thing. You know, some research, and one of the things that we'll do on the session, on the day, is I'll share with you some of that fascinating research, fairly recent research too, in the last sort of 8-10 years, that actually shows that the quality of the management and leaders in an organization is one of the critical factors for that organization's success or failure. And there are numerous studies out there, CIPD, ILM, a number of different institutions that have shown that actually people quit bosses and not companies. So actually, yes, you matter. Leaders matter. People who actually have the vision and are able to inspire people to give of their best every day at work matter. They make a difference to the bottom line. So, if that's true, how do you get the best out of people so you increase growth and profitability? And it's here where, again, one of the things that struck me, this might look a rather strange slide to put up, but as Michael said earlier, my background is very much in education and psychology, and I'm fascinated with how, as human beings, we get the best out of ourselves and others. And it fascinates me that actually, very often in management, we are made into managers, myself included, with very little training or help or guidance or support to be able to do that job. And if actually you were given a really complex machine, so let's look at this slide here, and the cockpit of an aeroplane, that's a pretty complex machine. And if you were given that, you would at the very least expect a manual, wouldn't you? If not some training. Certainly if you're going to fly an aeroplane, I guess you're going to need a number of hours of intensive training. So most of us would expect some kind of training, and yet most of us are often thrust into management positions to manage the most complex machine on the planet, which is another human being. So I think psychology matters. Understanding some of the psychology behind how human beings work can actually help us to get better at being able to manage other people. You guys get coaching, right? You're from golf clubs. You know that, the whole idea in sport is to look at taking talent, to look at talented individuals, to spot that talent early, to coach, to encourage, to cajole, to nurture, maybe even kick butt sometimes. But coaches are about spotting that talent, about noticing that talent, and about doing whatever they need to in order to help to bring that out. And in actual fact, that's exactly what good managers are all about. And that's what this workshop is all about. It's about helping you to be able to coach others, But in order to coach others, you need to be able to understand the mental as well as the physical barriers which can hold you, your people, and your club's success back. It's also important that you have the tools and the techniques that will help you to move your staff closer to where you want them to be and where you want the club to be too. So what is this workshop actually going to do? Well, first of all, it'll help you to understand the human machine a little better. It'll teach you techniques that will work with human nature rather than against it. I'm a big believer, a huge believer in why make our jobs harder. There's an awful lot of things that I see sometimes in organizations where it's almost as if we just make our jobs harder because of the way that we approach dealing with others. If we work with human nature, actually the whole thing can become much easier. But you need to understand human nature first. This workshop will also give you a checklist of simple actions. And these are things that you can fit into your normal routine. I guarantee you, if you actually apply these things, and they're simple things, you will increase staff motivation within weeks. It'll also help to increase your confidence and your understanding of how to deal with difficult people. It'll help you not only meet with less resistance to change, but it will encourage your teams to suggest, to share, and to drive changes which will improve the profitability of your club. It'll help you improve team working. It'll sure as heck reduce whinging. And I guess if any of you are maybe not directors of golf yet but aspire to be, it will help you become more confident and effective leaders and managers and get noticed for all the right reasons. Here's just some of the things that this day will help you to go away with. You'll go away with an assessment of the style of leadership that you currently have. And actually, you know, part of the reason for that is because it actually starts with you. And understanding a little bit about yourself, your current style, how you interact, and how you currently communicate with others will help you to get a better understanding of what might need to be tweaked a little bit in order to get a return on investment, if you like. You'll be able to go away with what I call a blueprint of the culture that you want in your club and your team. And actually the culture of an organization is really important. What kind of culture do you really want? Do you want good teamwork? Do you want people working together? Do you want people who don't moan but actually come up with solutions and so on? Can you create that? Can you set that up? Absolutely, and I'll show you how. You'll go away with an understanding of what really motivates people and yourself, and how you can use that knowledge to increase productivity, loyalty, and really strong working relationships. You'll come away with 12 simple tactics, simple things, which if you're getting these things right, will mean you will increase the motivation and productivity of your people. One of the books that I'll share with you that I'll probably encourage you to try and have a look at on the day is a book that shows that these 12 things are the things that the world's best managers know that if they get their staff to say they agree or strongly agree with those 12 statements, then they will have a high-performing team. On the day, we'll have a look at those 12 statements. You'll get a chance to start to think about just how many of those your teams would be able to say yes, they agree or strongly agree to, and you'll be able to come up with a plan to think about how you could move things forward so that you do get more of those 12 things right. And they're easy. They're simple things. They're things that you could implement tomorrow back in the office. You'll also pick up 21 very simple tactics that you could start to do tomorrow, which will increase the motivation and the morale in your club. And I think one of the things that I'd like to add about these tactics is that one of the things that I often teach is that, you know, it's not about adding to your long list of to-dos. There are some really simple things that are just about changing how you approach things that can actually make a massive difference, and that's exactly what these 21 things are. I'll give you a guide to making your meetings deliver more impact. You'll learn how to give feedback much more effectively, and that's up as well as down. I've done some work with through the bigger association, and I know that having talked to some of the greenkeepers that have turned up to some of those sessions, that actually this has been a key issue for them too. It's not just about giving feedback to the people that are your direct reports, but it's actually thinking about how you give feedback both at the same level and up too. And finally, I'll help to give you some techniques, very simple techniques that will help you both to understand why people resist change and then how to help them to implement change more effectively. You'll go away with your own personal plan of action, some very specific steps that as you've worked through the day, you realize are things that you could do that would help you immediately. I've mentioned this once already, but I think it bears repeating. This workshop is not about adding to your already long list of to-dos. This is just about you understanding a few simple principles, learning a few very easy techniques that you tweak when you get back to the office. It's certainly not a massive theory. There's a lot of practical and useful techniques that I've applied, that I still use in my own business when I'm managing too, and I know that these tactics work. So, who might this workshop be for? Well, if you're a senior or middle manager and you're at or you aspire to director of golf level, then this is certainly a good workshop for you. Or indeed, if you manage any team which displays any of the symptoms that we looked at on that first slide, those symptoms will, as sure as eggs is eggs, be leading to poor performance and potential hassle for you, and some of the techniques that you learn on this day, I hope, will very much help you to be able to turn some of those symptoms round. And that's it. I hope that's given a flavour, Michael, of what the day is actually going to be about.
Shona, that's fantastic, and thank you very much for taking the time to come and speak with us today. It's definitely given us a very good overview of what the course is about and why PGA Pros should attend. I've got a few questions, if that's okay.
Yeah, shoot.
You mentioned these techniques to implement change more effectively, and whilst the topic here is about leading your people, and I imagine this occasionally gets kind of construed as just being your direct team or your immediate staff, a big part of the management of golf clubs is in relation to working with the club committees and managing the relationships.
Absolutely.
And in fact, it's change here that is often quite a sore point. So I take it the skills that we learn here will be just as applicable to working with your committee and leading them towards, improving the club.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes, Michael. These techniques are. There's two parts, I guess, to sort of managing and understanding how to manage people. The first is that there are some of what I call basic core principles about the way the human machine works, if you like, and those principles apply whether they're a chairman of the board, whether they're a direct report, whether they're a colleague. If you're human, these things apply. So there's certain things that we'll learn on the day about the way that the normal human machine will respond to change. However, in different situations, there are different techniques that you can use depending on who it is that you're actually interrelating or having to communicate with, and it's those techniques. So we look at both a mix of the principles, the general principles, but then the very specific techniques that will help you to deal with a specific situation or a specific individual, and those will differ depending on who it is you're talking to, and we have a look at that as part of the session.
So with that in mind, whilst it's for senior and middle management and those aspiring for a director of golf level, it really could be for anyone who's looking just to improve relationships and improve the way in which they work with other people.
Yes, you can probably tell I'm slightly smiling as I'm listening to you, because one of the things I often say in the workshops that I run is that the more that I've done this, and I went on a number of leadership courses myself when I was in the pharmaceutical industry as I sort of moved up my own management career, but I think one of the other huge benefits that I think always stems out of doing leadership and management programs is that you don't, the skills you learn aren't just applicable in the workplace. They're applicable with everyone that you interrelate with. So these skills will not just help in the golf club. They'll help outside of work too, with your partners, with your spouses, with your children, with your mates. These are skills that really help us to make the most out of relationships at any level and with anybody. And I think the other thing that they're really good at doing is it's great. One of the points on one of the earlier slides was about giving people confidence. Giving managers the confidence to be able to know that they can handle any situation. If they have if they understand some fundamental principles about how to communicate with the human machine, as I affectionately call us, in the best way, then it doesn't matter who they're working with. They'll feel really confident going into, and far better able to plan important communication with whoever it is they need to speak with too.
That's great. Well, thank you. And then just one final question to wrap up here, Shona. Why should PGA professionals attend your seminar, and what, in 3 or 4 short points, what will they get at the end of the day they'll believe being able to do back in the workplace?
I think anyone who's serious about wanting to get good results and who manages or supervises or in any sense leads others needs to come. It cannot ignore the fact that probably 75 to 80% of the success of a manager's role is not down to their skill in terms of their basic skill and knowledge around the role itself, but much more about how they handle the people that they work with. It's about being able to make good decisions. It's about being able to get people on side regardless of the stresses or the external challenges that are going on. Those are things that, it's not about what you were good at before. It's about really understanding people. Any manager or leader or aspiring leader, particularly the higher up you get, and there's a massive research now to show that the higher up the ladder you get, if you haven't got these skills, you're either not going to get to that level, or you're not going to last very long. So that's, for me, the key reason why people should attend this day. And I guess the simple answer to what are they going to walk away with? They're going to walk away, I hope, with some very specific, simple actions that they could do the following day. Literally, they could walk in the following day and change, and they would start to see results in weeks.
That's great. Shona, thank you very much for taking the time out to come and speak with us here today. On behalf of all PGA members who are going to view this webinar, it's been much appreciated, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you here at the PGA for a seminar in the future. For PGA members that are watching this recorded webinar, if you do want to see Shona in action, don't forget to go onto the Member Education homepage and register your interest for this seminar. If you're watching this on YouTube, there is a link in the About section below, so just click on that and you'll be redirected to our website where you can go and learn more about the course and book on or register for the course. Shona, is there anything else you would like to add?
I don't think so, other than I'm really looking forward to seeing people at the day and working with them. It'll be great fun, I promise them.
Absolutely. Thanks, Shona.
Okay. Bye-bye, Michael.
Bye-bye. Bye.